The fluorescent lights of the hospital waiting room hummed with the same mechanical indifference that had defined the last 3 months of Dexter Lozano's life. He sat with his laptop balanced on his knees, fingers moving across the keyboard with practiced efficiency, while his 6-year-old son Riley slept against his shoulder, small chest rising and falling in the peaceful rhythm only children seem to achieve. It was 11:30 on a Tuesday night in January. They were at St. Mary's Hospital, waiting. Again, Sonia, his wife of 7 years, had been admitted that afternoon with what her mother Muriel insisted was a severe anxiety attack. The 4th one this month. Dexter knew better than to argue with Muriel Watkins about anything concerning her daughter's health, or anything else for that matter. 7 years of marriage had taught him that his mother-in-law viewed disagreement as a personal assault on her authority. "Mr. Lozano?" A nurse appeared, clipboard in hand. "Your wife is asking for you." Dexter gently shifted Riley to the chair beside him, tucking his jacket around the boy's small frame. He followed the nurse down the sterile corridor, past rooms where other families faced their own midnight crises, until they reached Sonia's room. His wife looked small in the hospital bed, her auburn hair splayed across the pillow, her hazel eyes red-rimmed from crying. Muriel Watkins sat in the chair beside her, a woman in her late 50s who carried herself with the rigid posture of someone who believed the world owed her deference. Her silver blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her sharp blue eyes fixed on Dexter with their usual contempt. Finally, Muriel said, her voice dripping with disdain, "Where have you been?" "In the waiting room with Riley," Dexter replied evenly. "Where you told me to wait. Don't take that tone with me. My daughter needs support, not attitude." Sonia's hand reached weakly toward Dexter. "I'm okay," she whispered. I don't know what happened. I felt like I couldn't breathe." Dexter took her hand, noting the slight tremor in her fingers. This had become a pattern. Sonia would have these episodes, always when her mother was around, always requiring hospital visits that found nothing physically wrong. The doctors had suggested therapy, stress management, possibly anti-anxiety medication. Muriel had vetoed all of it, insisting that what her daughter needed was to be around family who truly cared about her. The implication was clear. Dexter didn't qualify as someone who truly cared. "The doctor says she can go home in an hour," Muriel announced, standing abruptly. "She'll be staying with me tonight. You can bring Riley by in the morning. Sonia can decide where she wants to stay," Dexter said carefully. "I've already decided," Sonia said softly, not meeting his eyes. "It's probably better. You have that deadline tomorrow anyway, and Riley has school. Mom can take care of me." It was always like this. Muriel would create a situation, Sonia would side with her mother, and Dexter would be left standing on the outside of his own marriage. He'd been patient for 7 years, telling himself that eventually Sonia would see what her mother was doing, that she would choose him, choose their family. He was beginning to doubt that day would ever come. "Fine," Dexter said, releasing Sonia's hand. "I'll take Riley home." "To that apartment," Muriel scoffed. "That cramped little shoebox you insist on living in when you could be in a proper house. But no, you're too proud to accept help from your wife's family." Dexter had heard this refrain countless times. The help Muriel offered always came with strings attached, strings that would tighten around his throat until he couldn't breathe any better than Sonia could right now. The house Muriel had offered to buy them was 3 doors down from her own mansion in the wealthy Riverside district. The job she tried to arrange for him at her late husband's investment firm would have put him under the supervision of her brother-in-law, Hobart Watkins, a man who made Muriel look warm and compassionate by comparison. Dexter had built his career as an investigative journalist before transitioning to freelance research when Riley was born. The work was solitary but flexible, allowing him to be present for his son in ways his own father never had been. It didn't pay as well as working for Muriel's family would have, but it was his. It was clean. It didn't come with the rotten strings the Watkins family attached to everything they touched. "The apartment is fine," Dexter said. "Riley likes his room. He likes his school. Riley deserves better than fine," Muriel snapped. "But then again, you've never been able to provide better than fine, have you? Sonia could have married Gerald Friedman. Did you know that? He runs 3 hospitals now. 3. But no, She chose you. A man who types on a computer all day and calls a career. Mother, please, Sonia murmured, but there was no real conviction in her voice. Dexter left without another word. He collected Riley from the waiting room, lifting his son's slight weight with practiced ease. The boy stirred but didn't wake as Dexter carried him through the parking lot to their 10-year-old Honda Civic. The car was reliable, if unimpressive, another source of Muriel's disdain. As he drove through the empty streets toward their apartment in the Millbrook district, Dexter's mind worked through the familiar calculations he'd been running for months now. He'd been documenting everything. Every cruel comment, every manipulation, every time Muriel had undermined his relationship with Sonia. He had recordings on his phone, saved text messages, a detailed timeline of events. He told himself he was just being thorough, just protecting himself in case things ever went truly wrong. But he knew the real reason. He'd been investigating Muriel Watkins the way he used to investigate corrupt politicians and corporate criminals. Because something about her didn't add up. The timing of her late husband's death 4 years ago. The convenient life insurance policy that had paid out $3 million. The way she'd systematically isolated Sonia from anyone who wasn't under her control. Dexter had started pulling threads 6 months ago. What he'd found was still incomplete, but it was enough to know that Muriel Watkins had secrets. Dark ones. The kind that explained why she was so desperate to control her daughter, to eliminate any outside influence that might lead Sonia to question her mother's version of reality. He pulled into their apartment complex parking lot at 20 past midnight. Riley woke up as Dexter carried him upstairs, blinking sleepily. "Is Mommy okay?" the boy asked, his voice small and worried. "Mommy's fine," Dexter assured him. "She's going to stay with Grandma tonight." Riley's face tightened slightly. At 6 years old, he was already learning to read the emotional currents in his family. He knew that staying with Grandma Muriel meant something was wrong, that the grown-ups were fighting again in the way they fought, with cold silences and tight smiles. Dexter got Riley ready for bed, reading him 2 chapters of the adventure book they'd been working through together. It was their ritual, the one piece of normalcy he could guarantee in an increasingly chaotic situation. When Riley finally drifted off, Dexter returned to his desk and opened his laptop. He had a folder labeled MW_research, encrypted and backed up in 3 separate cloud accounts. Inside were 6 months of careful investigation. Financial records obtained through less than legal means. Interview transcripts from people who'd known Muriel before she married Howard Watkins 28 years ago. Newspaper archives from small-town databases that told the story of a woman who'd disappeared, only to resurface 3 years later with a new name and a new history. Muriel Watkins had been born Muriel Braun in a small town in Ohio. She'd married young, at 19, to a man named Caesar Todd. 2 years later, Caesar had died in what was ruled an accidental drowning. Muriel had collected a modest life insurance payout and disappeared. She'd resurfaced 3 years later in Philadelphia as Muriel Brennan, working as an executive assistant at a prestigious investment firm. That's where she'd met Howard Watkins, a senior partner who was 20 years her senior and recently widowed. They'd married within a year. Howard's first wife had died of cancer, leaving him with a young daughter, Sonia, and a vast fortune. Muriel had stepped into the role of mother and wife with apparent ease. Howard had died 4 years ago of what was officially ruled a heart attack, though Dexter had found irregularities in the medical examiner's report that had never been investigated. The problem was evidence. Dexter had suspicions, patterns, coincidences that formed a disturbing picture, but he didn't have proof. Not the kind that would stand up in court. Not yet. His phone buzzed with a text from Sonia. "Mom says she wants to talk to you tomorrow. Important. Please don't make this difficult." Dexter set the phone down and rubbed his eyes. He was tired. Tired of being the villain in Muriel's narrative. Tired of watching his wife choose her mother over him again and again. Tired of wondering if his son would grow up thinking his father was the weak one, the one who couldn't provide, the one who wasn't good enough. He worked until 3 in the morning, following a new lead he'd discovered about Muriel's time in Philadelphia. By the time he closed his laptop, he had something. Not everything, but something. a connection to a man named Gerard Gray who'd worked at the same investment firm as Muriel. Gerard had died 6 months after Muriel married Howard. Another drowning, this one ruled as suicide. Too many dead men. Too many insurance payouts. Too many convenient tragedies. Dexter fell asleep at his desk, his dreams filled with dark water and screaming. The morning came too quickly. Riley woke at 6:30, as he always did, full of the boundless energy unique to small children. Dexter made breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, and got Riley ready for school. The boy chattered about a project he was working on, something about planets, and Dexter listened and responded with the part of his mind that wasn't calculating his next moves. After dropping Riley at Henderson Elementary, Dexter drove to Muriel's house in the Riverside District. The mansion sat behind iron gates, a Tudor-style monument to Howard Watkins' success and Muriel's need to display wealth. Dexter had always found the house oppressive, with its manicured lawns and formal gardens that looked beautiful but felt sterile, as if no real life could exist there. Muriel answered the door herself, dressed in expensive casual wear that probably cost more than Dexter's monthly rent. Her face was set in its usual expression of disapproval. "You're late," she said, though Dexter had arrived exactly at the time she'd specified. "Where's Sonia?" "Resting. The doctor prescribed sleeping pills. She needs peace and quiet." Muriel stepped back, allowing him into the foyer. "We need to talk." In the study. Dexter followed her through the house to Howard's old study, a dark-paneled room lined with legal books and expensive art. Muriel sat behind the massive oak desk, a deliberate power move. Dexter remained standing. "I'm going to be direct," Muriel said, folding her hands on the desk. "This marriage is destroying my daughter. You're destroying her." "That's not true, isn't it? Look at her. She's having panic attacks. She can't sleep. She's miserable. And it's because of you." "It's because of you," Dexter said quietly. "You've been poisoning her against me for years, telling her I'm not good enough, that she deserves better, that she made a mistake marrying me. I've been telling her the truth. You can't provide for her. You can't give her the life she deserves. You can't even give your son." She paused, her lips curling into something cruel. "Well, we don't even know if he is your son, do we?" The words hung in the air like poison gas. "What did you just say?" "Don't play stupid with me, Dexter. I've seen the signs. Sonia's indiscretions. The way Riley doesn't look anything like you. Those blue eyes, your eyes are brown. Sonia's are hazel. Where do the blue eyes come from? Genetics are complex. I'm not an idiot. I know what I know, and I know that boy isn't yours. I've known for a while now. I'm just waiting for Sonia to admit it." Dexter's hands clenched into fists at his sides. Riley had blue eyes. So did Dexter's mother, who died when he was young. So did his maternal grandmother. It was basic genetics, easily explained. But Muriel wasn't interested in explanation. She was interested in creating doubt, in driving a wedge between him and Sonia that could never be repaired. "Riley is my son," Dexter said, his voice hard. "And you need to stop with these accusations." "Or what? You'll do something? Please. You don't have a spine. You've been taking my abuse for 7 years without doing anything. You're weak, Dexter. That's why Sonia needs to leave you. That's why I'm insisting on it. Does Sonia know you're having this conversation with me?" "Sonia will know what I tell her to know. She's my daughter. She listens to me." Muriel leaned forward, her eyes glittering with malice. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to move out. You're going to agree to a separation. And when the divorce is finalized, you're going to accept whatever custody arrangement we offer. If you cooperate, I'll make sure you get visitation with Riley. If you fight this, I'll make your life hell. I'll drag your name through the courts. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are." "What kind of man is that?" "A deadbeat. A failure. A man who couldn't hold on to his wife because he couldn't provide for her. A man whose own son isn't his." She stood, smoothing her silk blouse. "I'll give you a week to find a new place. After that, if you're still in that apartment, I'll have my lawyers file for emergency custody of Riley. Don't test me on this." Dexter looked at the woman who'd made his life miserable for 7 years. The woman who'd systematically destroyed his marriage. The woman who, he was now certain, had killed at least 2 men and possibly 3. "No," he said simply. Muriel's eyebrows rose. Excuse me? No, I'm not moving out. I'm not agreeing to a separation. And I'm not letting you take my son. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. And I choose to fight. You want to drag me through the courts? Go ahead. Discovery works both ways, Muriel. And I've been doing my research. For the first time, he saw something flicker in her eyes. Uncertainty. Fear, maybe. What research? Into you. Your past. The things you've been hiding. The things you don't want anyone to know. She laughed, but sounded forced. You're bluffing. You have nothing. Are you sure about that? Dexter pulled out his phone, scrolled through his files, and showed her a photograph. It was an old newspaper clipping, yellowed with age. The headline read, "Local man dies in boating accident." Muriel's face went white. "Caesar Todd," Dexter said softly. "Your first husband, dead at 23, drowned in Lake Erie. Very tragic. Except I've been talking to people who were there. People who remember that you and Caesar have been fighting. That there was talk of divorce. That you inherited $30,000. A lot of money for 1987. That was investigated. It was ruled an accident. Just like Gerard Gray's death was ruled a suicide. Just like Howard's death was ruled natural causes." Dexter stepped closer to the desk. "Too many dead men, Muriel. Too many convenient accidents. I'm not done investigating. And when I find what I'm looking for, and I will find it, I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what you are." Muriel's hands were shaking. "Get out of my house." "Gladly. But you leave my son alone. You leave Sonia alone. And you stay away from me. Because if you push this, if you try to take Riley, I will burn your whole world down. Do you understand me?" He didn't wait for an answer. He turned and walked out, his heart pounding, adrenaline flooding his system. He just declared war on Muriel Watkins. There was no going back now. He drove back to the apartment, his mind racing. He needed to accelerate his investigation. He needed to find proof, real proof, before Muriel could move against him. She was cornered now, which made her dangerous, but also made her sloppy. People made mistakes when they were scared. When he got home, there was a message from Sonia on his phone. "What did you say to my mother? She's hysterical. She says you threaten her." "Dexter, what's going on?" He didn't respond. He couldn't explain this over text. He couldn't explain it all. Not yet. Not until he had everything he needed. He spent the rest of the day working his contacts, calling in favors from his journalist days. He needed access to sealed records, to autopsy reports, to financial documents that weren't public. It was illegal, what he was doing. He could lose his career, possibly face charges. But he'd passed the point of caring about legal niceties. Muriel had backed him into a corner. She'd threatened his son. That changed everything. By evening, he'd made progress. A contact in Philadelphia had found Gerard Gray's autopsy report. There were inconsistencies, bruising that didn't match a fall, water in the lungs that suggested drowning before entering the water. The medical examiner had noted these discrepancies but had been overruled by the investigating detective, a man named Wallace Griffith who'd retired 3 years later with a suspiciously large pension. Another thread to pull. Dexter picked up Riley from his after-school program, took him to their favorite pizza place, and tried to act normal. Riley talked about his day, about his friends, about the spelling test he'd aced. Dexter listened and smiled and felt his heart breaking at the thought of losing this. Losing these ordinary moments with his son. They got home at 7. Dexter was giving Riley a bath when someone pounded on the apartment door. Heavy, aggressive knocking that made Riley look up in alarm. "Stay here," Dexter told his son, wrapping him in a towel. He went to the door and looked through the peephole. A man stood in the hallway, broad-shouldered and unfamiliar. Dexter opened the door with the chain still on. "Dexter Lozano?" "Who's asking?" "My name is Hobart Watkins. I'm Muriel's brother-in-law. We need to talk." Dexter had heard about Hobart, but never met him. Howard's younger brother, a lawyer who'd built a reputation as someone who destroyed people in court with ruthless efficiency. "Not interested." "You should be. Muriel wants to settle this quietly. She's prepared to offer you $50,000 to walk away. Sign custody over to Sonia, agree to supervise visitation only, and the money is yours. That's more than you make in a year, I'd imagine. Tell Muriel to go to hell. Don't be stupid. You can't win this fight. We have resources you can't imagine. We'll bury you in legal fees. We'll destroy your reputation. We'll make sure you never work again. Take the money. Walk away. It's your best option. No. Hobbart's face hardened. Then you're a fool. And when we take your son, and we will take him, you'll have nothing. Not even the money. He turned and walked away. Dexter closed the door, his hands shaking with rage. They were escalating, moving faster than he'd anticipated. He had days, not weeks. He got Riley settled into bed, then returned to his computer. He worked through the night, following leads, connecting dots, building his case. At 2 a.m, he found it. The piece he'd been looking for. A death certificate for a woman named Rochelle Hoffman, dated 1989. She died in Philadelphia. Cause of death listed as accidental overdose. She'd been Gerard Gray's girlfriend at the time of his death, and she'd worked at the same investment firm as Muriel and Gerard. 3 people connected to Muriel, all dead. All within a 5-year span. All with suspicious circumstances that had been explained away. Dexter pulled up social media profiles, old news articles, anything he could find. He discovered that Rochelle had told friends she was scared of someone at work, that she'd known something, that she was planning to go to the police. She died before she could. Dexter sat back, his mind spinning. He had a pattern now. He had motive. Muriel had been systematically eliminating anyone who threatened to expose whatever she'd done. But what had she done? What had Gerard known? What had Rochelle discovered? He dug deeper, looking at the investment firm's history. It had been investigated by the SEC in 1990 for fraudulent practices. Several executives had been charged, but Muriel had never been implicated. Howard had negotiated a settlement that kept the firm's name clean and protected his employees. Had Howard known? Had he been protecting Muriel, or had she manipulated him the same way she manipulated Sonia? Dexter's phone buzzed at 3 a.m. A text from an unknown number. Stop digging or you'll regret it. He screenshotted it, added it to his evidence folder. They were rattled. Good. He finally fell asleep around 4, exhausted but energized. He had momentum now. He just needed more time. He didn't have it. The next 2 days passed in a blur of investigation and paranoia. Dexter couldn't shake the feeling he was being watched. Cars that seemed to follow him. People who looked away too quickly when he noticed them. Maybe it was real. Maybe it was exhaustion playing tricks on him. Sonia finally came home on the 3rd day, pale and quiet. She moved through the apartment like a ghost, avoiding eye contact, jumping at sudden sounds. Whatever Muriel had been telling her, it had worked. Sonia looked at Dexter like he was a stranger, someone potentially dangerous. We need to talk, she said that evening, after Riley was in bed. They sat in the living room, an ocean of distance between them on the couch. My mother says you threatened her. I told her to stop interfering in our marriage. She says you've been spying on her, that you showed her some conspiracy theory nonsense about her past. It's not nonsense, Sonia. Your mother has secrets. Dark ones. Stop it, Sonia said, her voice rising. Just stop. Why can't you accept that maybe you're the problem? Maybe you're the one who's been making me miserable. Do you really believe that? I don't know what I believe anymore. Tears streamed down her face. I just know that I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being caught between you and my mother. It's tearing me apart. Then choose, Dexter said quietly. Choose me. Choose our family. Choose Riley. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. It's exactly that simple. My mother says... Sonia's voice trailed off. What does your mother say? She says Riley might not be yours. There it was. The poison finally injected directly into his marriage. And you believe her? I don't know. There was a time about 7 years ago before we got married. I made a mistake. I was confused, and she broke down completely, sobbing. Dexter felt the world tilt beneath him. What mistake? It was one time, just once, with someone from work. I was drunk, and I barely remember it, and I felt so guilty afterward. I never told you because it didn't mean anything. But now my mother is saying the dates line up, and what if she's right? What if Riley isn't yours? Riley is mine, Dexter said firmly. Regardless of biology, regardless of anything else. He's my son. I raised him. I love him. That doesn't change. But what if? No. Listen to me, Sonia. Your mother is manipulating you. She's using your guilt, your fear, to control you. She's been doing it your whole life. Can't you see that? You don't understand. You didn't know my mother before. After my real mother died when I was 3, Muriel saved me. She married my father. She raised me. She gave me everything. And she's been holding it over your head ever since. That's not fair, isn't it? Think about it, Sonia. Really think. Every time you've tried to be independent, what happened? When you wanted to go to art school instead of business school, what did she do? She was trying to protect me. She told you that you weren't talented enough, that you'd fail, that you'd embarrass the family. And you believed her. You went to business school, hated every minute of it, and now you don't work at all because she convinced you that you needed to focus on family. When you wanted to move to Seattle for that job opportunity, what happened? My father was sick. Your father was fine. Muriel said he was sick. She said he needed you close. And you stayed. You always stay. Because she's trained you to believe that disagreeing with her means you're a bad daughter. Sonia was crying harder now, her hands over her face. Stop. Please stop. I can't stop. Because if I don't make you see what she's doing, I'm going to lose you. And Riley is going to lose his mother. And Muriel wins. Again. What do you want from me? I want you to come with me. Tomorrow. We pack up Riley. We get in the car, and we leave. We go somewhere she can't find us. And we figure out who we are without her voice in your head. I can't do that. Why not? Because she's my mother. No, she's not. Muriel is not your mother. Your mother died when you were 3. Muriel is a woman who saw an opportunity and took it. She married a rich widower, gained a daughter she could control, and has been living off your father's money ever since. You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? When's the last time you made a decision without consulting her? When's the last time you did something she disapproved of? When's the last time you were happy, Sonia? Really, genuinely happy? She didn't answer. She just cried. Dexter reached for her hand, but she pulled away. I need time, she whispered. I need to think. Time is the one thing we don't have. Your mother is planning something. She sent her lawyer brother-in-law here to threaten me. She's going to try to take Riley away from both of us. Don't you see that? She doesn't want what's best for you. She wants control. I need to go back to her house. I need to think. Sonia, please, just give me a few days. I'll figure this out. She left that night, taking a small bag of clothes. She kissed Riley goodbye while he slept, and Dexter watched her walk out of their apartment with the sinking certainty that she wouldn't be coming back. He lost her. Muriel had won. But Dexter wasn't done fighting. He spent the next day making arrangements. He called an old colleague from his journalism days, a woman named Miranda Conrad who now worked as a private investigator. He gave her everything he had on Muriel and asked her to verify it, to find more, to build an ironclad case. This is dangerous, Miranda warned him. If even half of what you're suggesting is true, this woman has killed multiple people. You're putting yourself at risk. I'm already at risk. She's going to try to take my son. I need ammunition. I'll do what I can. But Dexter? Watch your back. That night, Riley asked where Mommy was. She's at Grandma's house, Dexter said. She needs a little time to rest. Is she mad at you? No, buddy. She's just confused about some things. Grandma Muriel doesn't like you. I know. I don't like her either, Riley said quietly. She's mean. She said I have stupid blue eyes. Rage flooded through Dexter, hot and consuming. Your eyes are perfect. You're perfect. Don't listen to anything she says. Okay. Riley hugged him tight. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Riley. More than anything. The next morning, Friday, Dexter got a call from Sonia. She sounded strange, distant. I've decided, she said. I'm filing for divorce. My mother's lawyer is drawing up the papers. You'll be served next week. Sonia, please. I'm asking for full custody of Riley. You can have supervised visitation every other weekend. That's more than fair, considering the circumstances. What circumstances? My mother is getting a DNA test done. She has a sample of Riley's hair from when he stayed here last month. If it proves he's not yours, I think you should step aside gracefully. Riley is mine. I don't care what any test says. We'll let the courts decide that. Her voice broke slightly. I'm sorry, Dexter. I do love you, but I can't do this anymore. My mother is right. You're not good for me. You're not good for Riley. That's her talking, not you. Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't matter anymore. I made my decision. She hung up. Dexter stood in his kitchen, phone in hand, feeling the last pieces of his old life crumbling away. Everything he'd built, everything he'd tried to protect, was falling apart. But he still had his son, and he still had his evidence. He called Miranda. "How fast can you work? I've already found something. Can you meet me in an hour?" They met at a coffee shop in a neutral part town. Miranda handed him a folder. "I verified your findings and found more," she said. Muriel Watkins, born Muriel Braun, has been using variations of her identity for 40 years. But here's what you didn't know. She didn't just kill those men for insurance money. Gerard Gray was going to expose an embezzlement scheme at the investment firm. She'd been skimming money for years, hiding it in offshore accounts. Gerard found out. Rochelle Hoffman was his girlfriend and knew about it too. They both died before they could tell anyone. "Can you prove it?" "I found the offshore accounts. They're still active." She's got close to $5 million hidden in the Cayman Islands. Money she stole from her own workplace before marrying Howard Watkins. And Howard found out 2 years before he died. I talked to his personal assistant, now retired. She said Howard was planning to divorce Muriel. He'd discovered the truth about her past, about the embezzlement. He was going to turn her in. He died 2 weeks before he was supposed to meet with the FBI. The heart attack. His personal physician wrote the death certificate, but there was never an autopsy. Howard was cremated immediately, per Muriel's wishes. Very convenient. Dexter took the folder, his hands shaking. "This is enough. To take to the police?" "Yes." "To prove murder?" "Maybe. The cases are old, evidence is thin. But embezzlement and insurance fraud? That's ironclad. She'll do serious time. I need to move fast. She's trying to take my son. Be careful. If she figures out what you know." "I'm past careful." He left the coffee shop and drove straight to the FBI field office downtown. He asked for the white-collar crime division and was directed to an agent named Bernie Carr, a man in his 50s with tired eyes and a rumpled suit. Dexter laid out everything. The folder, the evidence, the timeline. He talked for 2 hours. Bernie took notes, asked questions, made phone calls. "This is going to take time," Bernie finally said. "We'll need to verify everything, get warrants, build our case. But what you've brought me, if it's all accurate, we're looking at multiple felonies spanning decades." "How long?" "Weeks, maybe months." "I don't have months. She's trying to take my son. I need something now. I can't arrest someone without cause. Then investigate her. Put surveillance on her. Something. Because if she figures out that I've gone to the FBI, I don't know what she'll do." Bernie studied him for a long moment. "Give me 48 hours. I'll push this to the top of the priority list. But Mr. Lozano, if what you're saying is true, this woman is extremely dangerous. You need to protect yourself and your son." Dexter left the FBI building with a grim sense of satisfaction. The wheels were turning. Justice was coming. But 48 hours was a lifetime when dealing with Muriel Watkins. That night, at 10 p.m. on Friday, January 17th, someone knocked on his apartment door. It was Sonia. She looked terrible, her eyes wild, her hair disheveled. "I need to talk to you," she said, pushing past him into the apartment. "It's about my mother. I think you were right." "What happened?" "I found something in my father's old papers that my mother kept in storage. Letters he wrote, but never sent. One of them was to the FBI. Dexter, my mother killed him. She killed my father. He knew about her past, and she killed him. Sonia, I confronted her. An hour ago. I asked her if it was true. And do you know what she did? She smiled. She actually smiled and said, 'Your father was a weak man who couldn't appreciate what I'd done for him. For us. He was going to ruin everything. I couldn't let that happen.' She admitted it, not in so many words, but I saw it in her eyes. The truth. And I realized you were right about everything. She's been controlling me my whole life. She's been poisoning me against you. And she's planning something. Something to get rid of you. What? I don't know exactly. But I heard her on the phone tonight with Uncle Hobart. They were talking about accidents. About making sure things look natural. Dexter, I think she's going to try to kill you." Before Dexter could respond, his phone rang. It was Miranda. "Get out of there," she said without preamble. "I just had a tip from a contact. Muriel Watkins has hired someone. A contractor. The kind who makes problems disappear. He's supposed to move tonight. Tonight. Get your son and get out. Now." Dexter hung up and looked at Sonia. "We need to leave. Right now." He ran to Riley's room, gently shook his son awake. "Come on, buddy. We're going on an adventure. Now." Riley mumbled, confused. "Now." He grabbed a bag, threw in some clothes for Riley, grabbed his laptop and external drives. Sonia stood in the living room, tears streaming down her face. "This is my fault," she whispered. "I should have listened to you. I should have. We could talk about blame later. Right now, we run." They were at the door when they heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, deliberate. Then silence. Dexter looked through the peephole. A man stood there, large and intimidating, wearing dark clothes. He wasn't knocking. He was picking the lock. "Balcony," Dexter whispered. "Now!" They ran to the balcony. They were on the 3rd floor, too high to jump, but the balcony next door was close enough to reach. Dexter handed Riley to Sonia, then climbed over the railing and jumped the 4-foot gap. He made it barely. Sonia handed Riley across, and Dexter pulled his son to safety. Then Sonia climbed over and jumped. Behind them, they heard the apartment door open. They climbed through the neighbor's window, thankfully unlocked, and ran through the unfamiliar apartment and out into the hallway. They took the stairs, not the elevator, and burst out into the parking lot. Dexter's car was blocked in. "No time. Run," he said. They ran through the January night, Riley crying in Dexter's arms, Sonia struggling to keep up. Behind them, they heard shouting. The man had realized they'd escaped. They ran 4 blocks before Dexter spotted a 24-hour convenience store. He pulled them inside. "Call the police," he told the clerk. The clerk, a young man named Carlos, looked at them in alarm but picked up the phone. Police arrived within minutes. Dexter explained that someone had broken into his apartment, that his family was in danger. The officers went to investigate, found a broken lock, the man gone. They took statements, promised to patrol the area. But Dexter knew the police couldn't protect them. Not from Muriel. It was now nearly midnight. They sat in the convenience store, Riley wrapped in Dexter's jacket, Sonia shaking with shock. "We need somewhere safe," Sonia said. "Somewhere she can't find us." "There's a shelter," Dexter said. "On the north side. They take families in emergencies." They took a cab to the Hope Harbor Shelter, a converted church that provided emergency housing. The night staff took them in without questions, showed them to a small room with 2 twin beds. It wasn't much, but it was safe. Riley fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from fear and confusion. Sonia sat on the other bed, her head in her hands. "I'm so sorry," she said. "For everything. For not believing you. For choosing her over you. For almost destroying our family. We can talk about it later," Dexter said gently. "Right now, we need to figure out our next move. What are we going to do?" "I went to the FBI. I gave them everything I have on your mother. They're building a case, but it'll take time." "How much time?" "More than we have." They sat in silence for a while, listening to Riley's soft breathing. "There has to be something we can do," Sonia said. "Some way to stop her." "There is," Dexter said slowly. An idea was forming in his mind, dangerous but possible. "But you're not going to like it. Tell me. We go back. Tonight. We confront her. We get her to admit everything on camera, and we take it straight to the police. She'll never admit anything. She will if she thinks she's won. If she thinks we're desperate and cornered. Your mother's weakness is her ego. She wants people to know how clever she is. If we play it right, she'll brag about what she's done. That's insane. Maybe. But it's the only way to end this tonight. Because if we wait, if we hide, she'll find us. You know she will. She has resources. She has connections. We can run, but we can't hide forever." Sonia looked at her sleeping son. "What about Riley? He stays here. Where he's safe. This is just us. You're asking me to help you trap my mother. I'm asking you to help me protect our son. And to get justice for your father. For all the people she's hurt." Sonia was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. "Okay, tell me what to do." At 1:30 a.m., Dexter and Sonia stood outside Muriel's mansion. They'd taken another cab, had the driver wait 2 blocks away. Dexter had his phone set to record, hidden in his jacket pocket. Sonia used her key to open the front door. The house was dark, but they could see light under the study door. They found Muriel in Howard's old study, sitting behind the desk with a glass of wine, looking through papers. She looked up when they entered, her face registering first surprise, then rage. "Where's Riley?" Safe, Sonia said. Somewhere you can't hurt him. Hurt him? I would never. Stop lying, Sonia said, her voice strong in a way Dexter had never heard before. I know what you are. I know what you've done. And I want to hear you say it. Muriel stood slowly. I don't know what you're talking about. My father, Sonia said. Gerard Gray. Rochelle Hoffman. Caesar Todd. How many people have you killed, mother? Something shifted in Muriel's expression. The mask dropped away, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. So you figured it out, she said softly. I knew you would eventually. You're smarter than I gave you credit for. You get that from Howard, not from me. Why? Sonia's voice broke. Why did you kill my father? He loved you. He gave you everything. He was going to take it all away. Muriel snapped. After everything I'd done, everything I'd sacrificed, he was going to throw me away like garbage. Because of some money I took years ago. Money I earned. Money I needed to survive. You embezzled from the company. I took what was owed to me. I worked harder than anyone in that place, and they paid me secretary wages while the men got rich. So yes, I took money. And when that idiot Gerard found out, I had to do something about it. Just like I had to do something about Howard when he threatened to ruin my life. How did you do it? Dexter asked, his phone still recording. How did you kill him? Muriel smiled, a terrible expression. Digitalis. From a foxglove in the garden. Untraceable in small doses. Symptoms exactly like a heart attack. I'd been researching it for months. I just needed the right moment. And Howard made it so easy. He took his pills every morning like clockwork. So easy to slip something extra in. You poisoned him, Sonia whispered. I freed myself. And I freed you, too, though you were too blind to see it. Howard was weak. He would have destroyed our family's reputation, left us with nothing. I did what I had to do to protect us. And what about me? Dexter asked. What about Riley? Riley isn't part of this family. I've always known that. The moment I saw those blue eyes, I knew Sonia had been unfaithful. But I let it go because I thought she'd eventually leave you on her own. When that didn't happen, I had to take matters into my own hands. You tried to have me killed. Try. Muriel laughed. That was just a warning. To scare you. To make you run. But since you're here, since you've been stupid enough to come back, well, I suppose I'll have to finish the job. She reached into the desk drawer. Don't, Dexter said. But Muriel pulled out a gun. A small revolver that looked almost delicate in her hand. You've made this very difficult, she said. I didn't want to do it this way. But you've left me no choice. You, in your investigation, your questions, your persistence. You just wouldn't leave well enough alone. The FBI knows everything, Dexter said. Miranda Conrad, the private investigator I hired, she has copies of all my evidence. If anything happens to me, it goes straight to them. Then I suppose Ms. Conrad will have an accident too. These things happen. You can't kill everyone, Mother, Sonia said. You can't keep getting away with this. Watch me. The first thing I'm going to do is explain to the police how my unstable son-in-law broke into my house in the middle of the night and threatened my life. How I was forced to defend myself. How tragic it all is. And then I'm going to take custody of Riley. And you're going to help me raise him properly, Sonia. The way I raised you. I'm not helping you do anything. Yes, you are. Because if you don't, I'll make sure Riley ends up in foster care. I'll testify that you're an unfit mother. That you have mental health issues. That you're just like me. And maybe that part's true. Maybe you were like me. Maybe that's why you've stayed with me all these years. Because deep down, you know you don't have the strength to survive without me. You're wrong, Sonia said. I'm nothing like you. We'll see. Muriel raised the gun, pointing at Dexter. Any last words? Just one, Dexter said. Now. The study door burst open. Police officers flooded in, weapons drawn. Drop the gun. Police. Muriel spun, confused, the gun wavering. For a moment, it looked like she might fire anyway, might try to shoot her way out of the situation. But then she saw how many officers there were, saw Agent Bernie Carr from the FBI standing behind them. She lowered the gun slowly, placed it on the desk. This is ridiculous, she said, her voice regaining its authoritative tone. These people broke into my home. I was defending myself. We heard everything, Bernie said. Confessions to multiple murders. Murder conspiracy. We've been listening to this whole conversation. We have you on tape. I want my lawyer. You'll get one. Muriel Watkins, you're under arrest for the murders of Howard Watkins, Gerard Gray, Rochelle Hoffman, and Caesar Todd. You're also being charged with embezzlement, insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, and attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent." As the officer read her rights, Muriel's eyes fixed on Sonia. There was hatred there now, pure and venomous. "You betrayed me," she hissed. "Your own mother." "You're not my mother," Sonia said quietly. "You never were. You're just a woman who married my father and made my life hell for 25 years. And now it's over." They led Muriel away in handcuffs. Dexter and Sonia stood in the study, shaking with adrenaline and relief. "How did you get the police here?" Sonia asked. "I called Agent Carr before we came. Told him what we were planning. He thought we were crazy, but he agreed to listen in. They set up outside, heard everything through the recording equipment I was wearing." Dexter pulled a small wire from under his shirt. "They've been documenting everything. It's really over? It's really over." They left the mansion together. Dawn was breaking over the city, pink and gold light washing away the darkness of the long night. They returned to the shelter, to Riley, who was just waking up. "Mommy? Daddy? We're here, buddy," Dexter said, scooping his son up. "We're all here. Where's Grandma Muriel?" She's gone away for a while." "Good," Riley said simply. "She was mean. The trial took 8 months." Dexter, Sonia, and Riley moved to a small house on the other side of the city, far from the Riverside District and Muriel's shadow. They used some of Howard's inheritance, money that rightfully belonged to Sonia, to start rebuilding their lives. Dexter returned to journalism, writing a book about the investigation and Muriel's crimes. It became a bestseller, earning him enough money to secure Riley's future and establish himself as a respected author. Sonia started therapy. She spent long hours unpacking the damage Muriel had done, learning to recognize manipulation, learning to trust her own judgment. She started painting again, the passion she'd abandoned at Muriel's insistence, and discovered she was good at it. Really good. Riley started 2nd grade and made friends and forgot to ask about his grandmother. Children are resilient that way. The trial itself was sensational. The media loved it. The wealthy widow who'd murdered multiple people, who'd gotten away with it for decades. Miranda Conrad's investigation, combined with FBI forensics and Dexter's evidence, built an irrefutable case. The offshore accounts, the digitalis, the patterns of death following Muriel wherever she went. Muriel's lawyer tried to claim temporary insanity, tried to paint her as a victim of circumstance. But the jury didn't buy it. Neither did the judge. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole, for life sentences to be served consecutively. Dexter and Sonia were in the courtroom when the verdict was read. They watched as Muriel was led away in handcuffs, her face a mask of fury and disbelief. She'd always thought she was smarter than everyone else, that she could manipulate and control her way out of any situation. She'd been wrong. As they left the courthouse, Sonia took Dexter's hand. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For seeing what my mother was when I couldn't. For saving our family." "We saved each other," Dexter said. They went home to their son, to their modest house with its cluttered rooms and happy chaos. Riley was building a fort out of couch cushions, completely absorbed in his own world of imagination. "Daddy, Mommy, look what I made." They looked. They admired. They helped him add pillows and blankets until the fort consumed half the living room. That night, after Riley was asleep, Dexter and Sonia sat on their back porch, looking at the stars. "Do you think she'll ever accept what she did?" Sonia asked. "No. People like Muriel never do. They're incapable of taking responsibility. She'll spend the rest of her life blaming everyone else for her choices. I almost became her. If you hadn't fought back, if you'd just given up like she expected, I would have turned into her, controlling Riley the way she controlled me. But you didn't. You chose differently, because you showed me I could." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. "I never asked," Sonia said. "About Riley's eyes. About the paternity question. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. I want you to know the truth. That night I told you about the mistake I made, it was 3 months before I got pregnant. The timeline doesn't match. Riley is yours, biologically. He always was. My mother was lying about that too. I know, Dexter said. I had the math done 6 months ago, but it wouldn't have changed anything. He's my son. That's all that matters. She tried to take everything from us. But she failed. We're still here. We're still together. That's our victory. A few weeks later, they received a letter. It was from the prison, from Muriel. Sonia almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of her. The letter was 3 pages of vitriol. Accusations, justifications, bitter recriminations. Muriel blamed Dexter for ruining her life. She blamed Sonia for betraying her. She blamed Howard for being weak. She blamed everyone but herself. The last line read, "You think you've won. But I made you, Sonia. Everything you are is because of me. You'll never escape that. You'll never escape me." Sonia read it twice, then took it to the fireplace and burned it. "She's wrong," she said, watching the paper curl and blacken in the flames. "I'm not her creation. I'm my own person. And so is Riley. And so is our family." "Damn right," Dexter said. They never responded to the letter. They never visited Muriel in prison. They simply moved forward, building the life they wanted, free from her shadow. 2 years later, Dexter's book was adapted into a documentary series. It won an Emmy. He donated his portion of the proceeds to domestic violence shelters and organizations that helped people escape abusive family situations. Sonia had her first art show. Her paintings, abstract pieces exploring themes of control, freedom, and rebirth, sold out within an hour. A gallery in New York offered her a contract for a second show. Riley was 8 years old, happy and well-adjusted. He occasionally asked about his grandmother, but not with any real interest. She was a figure from his past, someone who'd been mean to his parents. He didn't remember much else. One evening, Dexter was putting Riley to bed when his son asked, "Daddy, are you a hero?" "What makes you think that?" "Tommy at school, his dad showed him your book. Tommy says you caught a bad guy. A really bad guy." "I did. But I'm not a hero, buddy. I'm just your dad. Can you be both?" Dexter smiled. "Maybe. Yeah, maybe you can be both." "Good. Because I think you're a hero." "Thanks, Riley. That means a lot. Will you tell me the story someday? About what happened? When you're older. When you're ready to understand." "Okay." Riley yawned. "Daddy, I'm glad you're my dad. Not just because of the hero stuff, but because you're nice. And you read me stories. And you make really good pancakes. I'm glad I'm your dad too. More than you could ever know." He kissed Riley goodnight and returned downstairs to where Sonia was working on a new painting. She had paint on her face and her hair. She looked happy. He asked about the book, Dexter said. "What did you tell him?" "That I'd tell him the whole story when he's older." "What will you say?" Dexter thought about it. About the long nightmare of those weeks. About the fear, the anger, the desperate fight to protect his family. About standing in that convenience store at midnight, his son crying in his arms, wondering if they'd survive the night. About the knock on Muriel's door at dawn, when police had arrived to arrest her. About her screams that had woken the entire neighborhood. "I'll tell him the truth," Dexter said. "That sometimes good people have to fight back against bad people. That sometimes you have to risk everything to protect what matters most. And that love is worth fighting for, even when the fight seems impossible." "That's a good story," Sonia said. "It's our story." "Yes, it is." They stood together in their living room, in their modest house filled with art and books and the comfortable mess of a life truly lived. Outside, the city hummed with its eternal noise. But inside, they had peace. They had each other. They had their son. Muriel had tried to destroy them. She tried to tear apart their family, to manipulate and control them until there was nothing left. She'd failed. That failure was more than justice. It was victory, complete and absolute, and earned through pain and fear and the kind of courage that comes from protecting the ones you love. Dexter Lozano had faced a monster and won, not with violence or revenge, though he'd been tempted, but with patience, intelligence, and the determination to see the truth revealed. The monster was in prison now, where she'd spend the rest of her life. And Dexter's family was free. That was enough. That was everything. 5 more years passed. Muriel died in prison of natural causes at age 67. The news reached Dexter and Sonia on a Tuesday afternoon. They felt nothing. No relief, no satisfaction. Just a distant acknowledgement that a chapter of their lives had finally, truly closed. They didn't attend the funeral. They didn't need closure. They had already moved on. Riley was 13 now, a bright kid who loved science and wanted to be an engineer. He knew his grandmother's story, had read his father's book with Dexter's guidance. He understood that people could be complicated, could be broken, could hurt others. "I'm glad I have you and Mom," he told Dexter one day. "I'm glad you didn't give up." "Never," Dexter said. "Not on you. Not on our family." "Good, because I never gave up on you either." Sonia's art career had flourished. She had shows in 3 cities, had pieces in museums. She'd found her voice, her purpose. She was no longer the controlled daughter, the manipulated wife. She was herself, fully and completely. And Dexter continued to write, to investigate, to tell stories about people who fought back against injustice. His second book was about families surviving narcissistic abuse. His third was about the psychology of manipulation. He never forgot that cold January night when Muriel had pushed them into the rain, when she called his son a bastard, when she'd thrown them out with nowhere to go. He never forgot carrying Riley 4 miles to a shelter, his son shivering and barefoot in the winter night. He never forgot the fear, the helplessness, the rage. But he also never forgot what came after. The investigation, the confrontation, the victory. That night in the rain had been the beginning of the end for Muriel Watkins. She just hadn't known it yet. 6 hours after throwing them out, there had been a knock at her door. When she'd opened it, she'd seen police officers, FBI agents, her own carefully constructed world crashing down around her. Her screams had woken the entire neighborhood. And Dexter Lozano, standing in a shelter with his son safe in his arms, had smiled. Because monsters could be beaten. Because the truth always found a way. Because a father's love was stronger than any manipulation, any lie, any cruelty. He protected his family. He brought a killer to justice. He'd save them all. And in the end, that was the only story that mattered. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.